When the man opened his eyes, something felt drastically wrong. The ceiling above him was unfamiliar, and the air carried the scent of old wood and parchment. He pushed the blanket off and stumbled toward the window. His breath caught in his throat. Outside was not his world. It was the world of a game he had played long ago. The towering white spires of Arhan's academy was unmistakable. It was 3 years ago. He had awakened inside the world of heroic legends of Arhan, a game he once obsessed over. It was a masterpiece of storytelling, with arcs ranging from chaotic academy politics to unstoppable apocalyptic events. But none of that should have mattered to him. He was not the hero. He was just an expendable non-player character, Corin Locke, a name that showed up briefly before disappearing forever when the protagonist, Sihu Park, went off to rescue villagers. A character destined to die, forgotten, and unmissed, but fate had played its joke. Corin had been reborn in this digital world with full awareness. And so, he decided to find Sihu. It took some time, but eventually he found him. To Corin's surprise, Sihu was not the fierce warrior he remembered. He was sitting on the ground, lost and dazed, slapping himself while muttering about efficiency and specs. Specs? That had never been in the original storyline. Sihu declared loudly that from now on, he would live only for himself and efficiency. Corin helped him to his feet, placing a firm hand on his shoulder, declaring that he too would do the same. After all, both of them were from Earth. The difference was, Sihu was the protagonist blessed with unmatched abilities and a status window glowing with potential, while Corin was just an ordinary side character. But Corin knew the world like no other. He had played every route, completed every quest, solved every mystery. Sihu had never played the game before. Corin's knowledge, combined with Sihu's power, made them an unstoppable force, and they became exactly that. For 3 years, they carved their names across the land. Quest after quest, enemy after enemy, they conquered them all. Their bond deepened through every battle, and the world slowly began to change. But as time passed, something started to feel wrong. The characters they met were different from the game. Many faces were missing. Some characters were never recruited, others had vanished mysteriously, and there were growing rumors of inexplicable deaths. And curiously, Sihu's team was composed entirely of men. In the original game, romance was a key mechanic. Female characters played major roles. Sihu had no love arcs in the game, but he often recruited female companions when necessary. But here, there were only men. Sweaty, brooding, muscular men. One night, Corin could not ignore the unease gnawing inside him any longer. He decided to follow Sihu, who for the past few months would disappear during the late hours. Slipping through the shadows, Corin tracked him to an abandoned building. And when he entered, his heart stopped. Inside were relics that should not have been there. The staff of Marie Dunaref, a divine weapon that vanished after her death, was leaning against a stone pedestal. Nearby was the Demon Slayer blade, last seen wielded by a fallen heroine. The rare Jaeger's mace lay beside Lark's lost spellbook. But what shattered Corin's composure completely was the sight of Marie Dunaref herself. Her blood was being drawn through a machine, her body pale and lifeless. It was being harvested. Sia stepped from the shadows. "You shouldn't be here," he said coldly. Corin turned, rage and disbelief choking his throat. "What is all this? You're the one behind the killings and disappearances, aren't you?" Sihu's face didn't change. "It's for efficiency." Corin staggered. The words struck harder than any blade. He realized then that Sihu had known about the game all along. He had tricked him, used his knowledge, all while orchestrating the deaths of innocent characters. "You lied to me," Corin whispered. "You killed them all. And for what?" "For you," Sihu said. "You drank their blood too, remember? I gave it to you. I did all of it for you." "I only killed the enemies," Corin replied, trembling. "You killed those who were innocent." Sihu walked closer. "You've always been slow. Even when Lark and Jaeger got in the way, you tried to protect them. I only ever cared about you. I only ever loved you." Corin stared at him, understanding crashing down like thunder. "Is that why your team is full of men? Is that why there are no women?" Sihu nodded. "The others? Just eye candy. You're the only one I want." "You're not in love," Corin growled. "You're a pervert. You killed everyone to fulfill your sick desires." Chains of magic wrapped around Corin's ankles in an instant. He fell hard, unable to move. "How can you say that after everything I've done for you?" Sihu's voice was calm, almost hurt. Corin lay chained, helpless, as Sihu leaned down and whispered, "I'm off to complete the final mission. After that, we'll be together for eternity." Then Sihu left. Corin stared at the dark chamber, heart pounding with terror and hatred. This was not the world of Arhan. This was the twisted creation of Sihu Park, a world crafted by obsession and desecration. Moments later, a notification flashed across the sky. The final event had begun. It was impossible for Sihu to lose now. He was the main character. The game itself favored him, but then another notification appeared. Main character eliminated. Game over. Korengas.it was impossible. How? The game was built around Sihu, yet somehow he had died. The world faded, pixel by pixel, and Koren felt himself being pulled into the void. Then, with a sudden jolt, he opened his eyes. He was back. Sitting on the same bed he had woken up on 3 years ago, staring out at the same view of Arhan's world. But this time, his heart was a blazing storm. This time, he understood what Sia truly was. He understood how everything had gone wrong. And now, he whispered to himself with deadly resolve, "This time, I will kill the main character." Koren sat in silence, eyes clouded with memories that stung more sharply than any wound. He remembered the Lothan River. The river, once a lifeline for the lowland villages, had been unleashed during a mass-scale mission designed to eliminate the water monsters inhabiting its depths. But the plan had gone catastrophically wrong. The river was released too soon. Thousands of water monsters surged forth, flooding village and slaughtering innocent people who had no chance to escape. Koren could still see the look on Sihu Park's face. That damn smirk. It had not been guilt or confusion. No, it had been pride. A disgusting, triumphant glint in his eyes as he watched the death toll rise. Sihu had reveled in it because, with each life taken, his experience points climbed higher. Koren hadn't realized it at the time. He was still blinded by loyalty and false camaraderie. But then he remembered the moment Sihu casually mentioned that he only needed 3 more people to reach a total of 100,000 kills. 100,000. And he had said it with the ease of someone talking about the weather. A murderer. That was what he was. No more. No less. Koren clenched his fists. He had to stop him. Before Sia killed again. Before he ascended to something even more dangerous. He then thought about Merkava Academy and its policies. Sihu was set to enter Merkava Academy, the greatest institution for sharpening one's powers, abilities, and unlocking forbidden magic. Currently, he was only a 5th-tier character, like Koren, but once he entered Merkava, everything would change. He would become something else entirely. And there were only 5 days left until the entrance ceremony. Koren had to kill him before then. There was no other way. Without delay, Koren fled into the jungle, desperate to find a rare lure, the topanic mushrooms. These fungi were known to attract demonic beasts, a risk worth taking for the plan he was forming. Meanwhile, elsewhere in that same vast forest, a group of young adventurers had just been issued a system-wide quest, a tutorial mission. The notification blinked before them in glowing letters. Tutorial quest. The carriage heading to Merkava City has broken down in the middle of a forest that is filled with monsters. Protect the carriage guards and passengers until the carriage is fully repaired. The players had just completed the mission. Everyone was celebrating. A girl praised a new rookie for how bravely he had fought. The rookie gave a sheepish smile, brushing off her praise. Another adventurer, Leon, sighed in relief and muttered that he could not wait to return home and sink into his comfortable bed. They were still laughing when they heard it. A roar. Deep, guttural, and earth-shaking. Confusion set in for a brief second before the girl's face hardened. She knew what it was. Beowulf. A 2nd-tier demonic beast. Seconds later, it burst into the clearing, snarling with rage. As panic erupted, the rookie stepped forward, telling the others to fall back. When asked what about him, he said he would not leave Leon behind, who was in the tangles of beast. The girl, Arisha Aiden, a noble with fierce eyes and sharp instincts, leapt forward to attack the Beowulf. But something unexpected happened. The rookie moved in front of her, disrupting her charge. Arisha stumbled. "What are you doing?" But before she could demand more, the rookie's blade found her side. The world stopped. She gasped, blood staining her uniform. What was that for? He tilted his head. Ah, my hand slipped. But she saw it then. The coldness in his eyes. The way he kept exploiting her every attack. She was no ordinary fighter. She was Arisha Aiden, the 2nd eldest daughter of the House of Aiden and the wielder of the Demon Slayer Blade, one of the 6 supreme blades. She was a high-value party member in the original game. But now, Sihu was not here to recruit her. He was here to take her blade. With a flurry of movements, he drove his sword through the Beowulf and finished the monster himself, then knelt beside the wounded Arisha. He slipped the Demon Slayer blade from her fingers, already planning to hand it over to her sister Linnea Aiden instead, who would serve him better. He muttered something under his breath about how valuable it would be, how her stats would complement his party. Another trophy to collect. Another blade to use. Then he raised his sword. He was going to kill her. Korin arrived just in time. He hurled the topanic mushrooms with all the strength he could muster. They landed on Siyu's face, breaking apart and releasing their distinct earthy stench. The effect was immediate. A horde of demonic beasts, drawn by the scent, charged through the foliage. Siyu stumbled backward in disbelief. It was enough. Korin grabbed Arisha's bleeding body and vanished into the shadows of the jungle. His heart thundered in his chest. She was still alive. That was all that mattered. But the reprieve did not last long. Siyu emerged moments later, bloody but victorious. He had dealt with the demonic beasts quickly. "I know you're there," he said, voice calm and composed, scanning the tree line. "Come on, show yourself." Korin stayed quiet, clutching Arisha tightly. Then Siyu's eyes found him. "Aren't you Korin Locke?" he asked. Korin stepped forward slowly, hiding the whirlwind of emotions surging inside him. Siyu turned and looked at him with his usual calm expression and asked what he was doing there. But as Korin met his eyes, he noticed something. There was no recognition. Siyu did not remember a single thing from their past life. That fact alone struck Korin like a silent thunderbolt. But it was a blessing in disguise. It could work in his favor. It meant Siyu was vulnerable. With an even tone, Korin pointed at the way Siyu held his sword. "You're holding it wrong," he said, forcing a friendly smile. "That grip will hurt your wrist." Siyu blinked, glanced down at his grip for a moment. And in that moment, Korin struck. He lunged without hesitation, catching him completely off guard. The clash began, blades colliding, feet skimming the forest floor. Siyu fought with the instinct of someone who had battled countless enemies, but he underestimated Korin. He expected an attack to the neck, which he guarded tightly. But Korin had a different plan. He twisted at the last second, angled low, and struck Siyu's right shoulder, the blade slicing through muscle and forcing him to the ground. With a growl, Korin mounted him, and, with a full thrust of righteous fury, drove the sword straight into his chest. Siyu gasped, stunned, his eyes wide with disbelief as his life bled out. Korin leaned closer, eyes blazing not with hatred but gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything you gave me in the past life. It made me stronger." Then silence fell. Then the mechanical procedure of analyzing started. Analyzing potential, analyzing ideology, analyzing suitability, analyzing gameplay log history. Korin stood still as the invisible system ran its course. He could feel the change crawling into his skin. Advancement complete. Succession of players burden, EXP, to Korin Locke, hero. A surge pulsed through him. He staggered, breath quickening. The world shimmered for a moment, and then everything settled. He was no longer just a remnant of the past. He was now a sub-player. He could see the stat window. He could level up. He could alter his fate. At least, that was what he believed. But a low groan drew him back to reality. It was Arisha. He ran to her, kneeling at her side. Her face was pale, eyes glassy, hands trembling. I can't see," she whispered weakly. "Everything's dark." Korin's eyes widened. "You're dizzy. You can't smell anything, and your ears feel plugged too, right?" She gasped. How do you know?" His expression hardened. "Peacock frog poison. Not easy to get, but Siyu had access to combinations through the stat window. That's how. But, am I going to die? No, not while I'm here." His voice was fierce, unwavering. "I'm good at neutralizing poison. You'll be fine. Just hang in there." He needed to keep her from biting her tongue, but there was nothing around to use. In a swift, desperate decision, he placed Siyu's limp arm in her mouth, creating a barrier. Then he took off his shirt, moved close, and began to draw the poison from her neck with his mouth, careful and determined. Afterward, he gathered wood and sparked a fire, setting up a small brewing station. He crushed the herbs he had in his pouch and worked meticulously to make an antidote. He knew time was slipping away, but he had to focus. Moments passed. Then finally, her breathing steadied. Her eyes fluttered open. "Who are you?" she whispered. He gave her a soft smile, brushing the hair from her face. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're safe. But I want to know." "Rest," he said gently. "Please. That's more important than names." As she drifted into peaceful sleep, Korin stood and looked up into the night sky. The stars were cold and indifferent, just like the world he now carried the burden of. Siyu Park was dead. The main character of the legend of Arhan was gone. That meant someone else had to take his place. Korin clenched his fists. The legend of Arhan was the story of a hero destined to fight the rising evil, to defeat the final boss who would bring destruction to the world. Perhaps that was why Sihu could never complete the tale, because he had become the destroyer himself. Now it was Korin's turn. But when he called out to open the stat window, nothing happened. No system. No inventory. No access. What? He whispered in disbelief. I'm a sub-layer. I should have it all. The emptiness of silence answered him. But Korin was no stranger to failure. 3 years of being a forgotten non-player character had taught him resilience. There was one path left. Magic. Ancient magic. Runes. Runes were mystical letters, the oldest form of power. Few dared to use them, fewer still understood their price. But he knew them, the 3 runes of troth. They were not just sources of power. They were pacts. They were contracts written in pain and will. Duty. Restraint. Oath. He took out a shard of stone, drew his blade, and inscribed duty onto his chest. He could have picked something petty like giving up chicken, but such trivial oaths granted no power. He had to give more. I will not turn blind eyes to others' misfortune. The rune burned into his skin. Penalty for failure, -10 stat points. Next, he carved restraint on his arm. The second rune shimmered with violet light. I will not perceive spirits, he declared. I in this world. People had a third eye. Spirits roamed freely, seen by mutual perception. But by choosing this restraint, he would be protected from their attention. It would sever his link to their realm, keeping him safe. But the price was steep. Failure would result in 600 additional damage from spiritual enemies. Still, he etched it with perfect clarity. Finally came the last rune. Oath. The air turned still. The rune pulsed with ancient weight. I will save the world. He felt the rune settle deep into his soul. A fire lit inside him, but then came the warning. Failing this oath would not just strip him of power. It would kill him. Korin looked at the glowing runes on his body, their power thrumming through his veins. He was not Sihu. He would not follow the same dark path. He had taken the burden of the player, and now he had made a vow to the world. He would not fail. In Merkava City, Arisha slowly blinked, her eyes open as the sterile, white ceiling above her came into focus. She tried to move, but felt a sharp stiffness all over her body. Turning her head slightly, she spotted a nurse moving around near the corner of the room. Summoning what little strength she had, she asked, "Where am I?" The nurse turned and answered softly, "You are in Merkava Emergency Hospital." Arisha's eyes widened. "The person who brought me here, where is he?" The nurse hesitated for a moment before replying. "He left just a short while ago." There was a trace of hesitation in her voice, a flicker of unease that did not escape Arisha. Arisha's eyes moved to her belongings on the small table nearby. Her attention fixed on a belt laid neatly beside her scabbard. It was smeared with dried blood. Her eyes narrowed. In a low, demanding voice she asked, "Is there a place here that sells honey bomb candies?" The nurse trembled under the intensity of Arisha's gaze. "I am afraid not. You will have to rely on porridge for now." Arisha gave a tired sigh, falling back into the pillow with a sharp breath. Her mind, however, was anything but still. 4 days had passed since the chaotic tutorial quest. Today marked the entrance ceremony of Merkava Academy. Korin stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his uniform and checking through his things. His student identification was already secured in his wallet. He paused. Something unusual caught his attention. An envelope he didn't recall placing among his things. Opening it, he found a letter. It was from the man who now called himself his father. The letter was simple, but warm, overflowing with pride and hope. It spoke of dreams, encouragement, and belief. The man wished for him to become a guardian who could save lives, someone who would shine even in a place as prestigious as Merkava. It took Korin back to his earliest days in this world. When he had first awakened in the body of Korin Locke, things had felt strange and suffocating. But the kindness of his family had helped him find his place. Their unwavering support had nurtured a deep love in him, something Sihu, for all his power, could never understand. That was the difference between them. He arrived at the train station. It was packed with students, all rushing to board their carriages to Merkava. Amid the sea of faces, a tall figure approached him with a soft smile. "First year?" the girl asked. "Yes," Korin replied. Blinking, she chuckled. "You're quite tall for a first year. That means you eat well." She handed him a warm, slightly steaming potato. "You'll need energy. Trust me." It was Marie Dunareff, a second-year student and an extraordinary mage. He recognized her instantly. In the future, she would become a figure shrouded in darkness, the final boss of Chapter 1. During the journey, Marie moved through the car, guiding the freshmen. She pointed out the creation building, where magic majors conducted their experiments, and then the vast training rooms, where any student could borrow weapons and hone their skills. Before stepping off the train, she turned back and advised them one last time to never skip their meals, especially the sweet potatoes before reaching the academy. Corin watched her carefully. Despite her calm exterior and helpful nature, she was a storm waiting to break loose, an abyss hiding behind an ordinary smile. But none of the students suspected a thing. Not yet. When they reached the academy gates, the crowd funneled into the enormous common building. The entrance hall buzzed with nervous energy. Corin stood among them, surrounded by a sea of bright faces, some curious, some excited, and others terrified. And then, exactly as he had remembered from the game, the air shimmered. A space extension spell had been cast. Most students stared around, confused, but Corin remained calm. It was all familiar that a voice rang out sharply, cutting through the murmurs. Do not be flustered by such a trivial spell, as you are first-year students of Merkava Academy. Corin recognized the voice. It belonged to Old Harmon, the man who treated the academy like a military training camp. Then, from a corridor on the side, a man appeared. Dressed in a chic, almost eccentric outfit and wearing sunglasses, he addressed the room with a confident swagger. I am Fermac Damon, professor of the night department, he announced. I'll be overseeing your entrance ceremony today. His gaze scanned them all. You're here because you want to become mages or knights. But I have no patience for posers strutting around like they own the place. Let's see what you've got. A shimmering system interface appeared in the air before each student. One by one, stats began.